With a lot of cycling media very much focused on power meters and heart rate monitors, it can seem like the only way to train properly is to invest, but that's not the case. If you've got a GPS unit like this Garmin, you can use it to train really effectively, using the speed, time, distance, and the recording functions in two different ways.
Yeah, the first way is to inspire you to work harder when you're out on your bike training. And the second is that it can actually monitor your progress by recording your rides, so you can see if your training is working or, more importantly, when it's not. Now, one way of ticking both those boxes is to time yourself when you're out on the bike. And one of the most natural places to do it is on a climb. So if you've got a planned set of intervals, timing yourself on those intervals ensures two things.
Yeah, firstly, you can compare yourself to previous times up that climb so you can check out your progress. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, it helps you to maintain quality through your session. So for example, if your climb is roughly 4 minutes long, and you've got to do it 4 times, if the first time up, you do it in 3:54, and then by the last one, you've slowed to 4 minutes 30, then you know that you're not maintaining quality through the session, and so you're not getting the right work done.
Yeah, so checking your progress and monitoring yourself out on the road helps keep that quality, even if your legs are screaming and your lungs are burning.
Yeah, you can also make it very slightly easier on yourself by making the most of the auto lap function on your computer. So that will automatically start and stop your computer at certain points out on the road, so you don't have to think about it, and it maintains consistency.
Job's a good one.
Yeah, it's just pro that, isn't it?
On the newer Garmins that have connectivity, you can race against yourself on the live segments, or the recently new addition of real-time Strava segments too.
Yeah, it's really cool. Just using GPS functions, you can still get those competitive juices flowing by following or indeed smashing a virtual opponent out on the road. But if the objective of your training session is to do maximum intensity intervals, but we'll come on to that later on.
Not now, because this is just steady, isn't it, Si?
Yeah, that's the objective of our training session today.
Indeed.
Steady.
It's nice and steady.
It can be very easy of falling into the trap of only doing your timed intervals up climbs, when the reality is that a more rolling route of, say, small climbs, descents and kind of flat bits is actually more representative of what the majority of us will ride on a day-to-day basis. And the other advantage of timing a rolling route is that you can do longer intervals if you live in an area without any big climbs.
Yeah, try using different loops of between 4 and 30 kilometers, and these can actually form the foundation of your training sessions in the future. And by returning to those circuits and those loops, you can gauge that all-important progression. But how exactly do you build in progression on the time sections? Well, put simply and quite bluntly, you need to increase your average speed. Now, we know speed is susceptible to external factors such as wind, but on a circuit it doesn't quite matter as much. And if you visit that circuit frequently, you should get enough information to see it accurately.
Yeah, so I had a really tough circuit I used to use, and over the course of a winter I'd see my average speed increase from, say, 33k an hour up to 36k an hour as I built my fitness. And the same is true, of course, on climbs, although you are limited again by the lengths of the climbs that you've got at your disposal. And remember that many really essential intervals for your training are going to be 20 to even 45 minutes in length, and that's a pretty big climb.
Punchy.
That is a punchy climb.
A different way to measure your training session, aside from the usual time and distance, is elevation gain, and your GPS device is the perfect tool to do this. You can set the function on your screen and then tick off the ascent as you go, or simply analyze the data when you get back.
Yeah, so if the target of your training is a particularly hilly race or sportif, then this parameter becomes even more important. So you can set yourself an elevation target on certain training rides, for example, to make sure that you're getting enough climbing in your legs, regardless of the intensity, so that you can really hit your goal. When you're actually back from your ride, And that's when the GPS fun can really start.
GPS fun?
All right, it's not fun as in like riding your bike fun, but you know, some training sessions are so hard that they're actually only enjoyable once you've got home and you've looked at your training data and found out exactly how hard you tried.
Data mining.
Yeah, data mining. Now, with GPS, you obviously don't get quite such an extent of data as you would do if you were training with a power meter or a heart rate monitor, but there's still plenty there to get your teeth into to really analyse your progress.
Now, the likely first port of call for those of us using Garmin's is going to be Garmin Connect, especially if you use the auto update function. Now, aside from measuring elevation gain, average speed and distance, if you use the segments function, you can break down your ride into its individual elements and monitor it in far more detail.
Yeah, best of all though, if you use any website to religiously upload your training data to, well, that becomes the natural home of your training diary, which is an essential part of any successful training plan, because what it does is it allows you to reflect back on what you've done, and then you can really analyse, work out what's gone right and what might have gone wrong in your training.
Record, revise, review. 3 R's.
Write that down.
Another popular post-ride analysis tool is Strava. It's a little bit like Garmin Connect, but does have some different features that could prove useful if you're only using GPS for training.
Yeah, first and foremost, Strava's got the power estimation function, but it's got to be said, you should probably use this carefully.
Yeah, Strava have had to make an estimation based on gradient, speed and weight. So when you compare that to time, to be honest, there's not much difference at all.
Undeniably though, using Strava to compete against other people for KOMs can give you great motivation to dig a little bit deeper when you're out on the bike. But you should use this with restraint though, because effective training doesn't mean going out and smashing every climb as fast as you possibly can. So don't fall into the trap of striving for KOMs on every single ride. Now, one final note is that unlike training with heart rate, using your GPS data, while it's really good for measuring your progress, it's much harder to detect signs of fatigue. So you've got to remember that effective training needs adequate recovery. So you've got to plan your rest days in and listen to your body.
We've been listening, and today is definitely a rest day.
There you go then, plenty of tips where you can use your GPS to help you train more efficiently, both on the bike and also in the post-ride analysis and planning phases. Just whatever you do, don't think that if you don't have a power meter or a heart rate monitor that you won't be able to improve. You can, and you will.
You certainly will, and if that's piqued your interest and you want some more training ideas, head up to our training playlist just up there, and for how to plan your training, it's just down there. And to subscribe to GCN, how about clicking on Simon? He's about to give us a little song for the end of this video.
This is the end of video song. This is the point you switch off and go to one of these. Yeah.
Good job.